for joining us on another episode of FPAN's web series featuring conversations with archaeologists. Today, I'm joined with archaeologist Dave Scheidecker. Would you like to introduce yourself and your mug?
Hi, I'm Dave Scheidecker. I'm a historic archaeologist who works for the Seminole Tribe of Florida Tribal Historic Preservation Office. I'm a research coordinator there. And the mug I chose for today is one with a little bit of archaeological history for me, because it's from Leicester, England, when the SHA conference was held there, and I went to defend my thesis from Texas Tech University, my master's thesis. So I did that at the SHAs, and my thesis was on a World War II site in North Texas. And as I'm in Leicester, that was the same time that they found Richard III buried underneath a car park in the city of Leicester, which was just that great perspective, because I'm like, oh, you found a guy who died in 1485, and I'm here talking about the early 20th century. That's current events over here, isn't it?
I'm being a bad tea person, and I left my loose leaf to seep a little bit too long, but I just thought I had to share because I have my climate change mug that when it gets heated up, Florida completely disappears. So I thought that would kind of clue in a little bit to your research. But then I realized that my little seepy buddy, my tea buddy, is a guy in a hot tub, which has some little ironic humor there.
That's perfect.
It is pretty awesome. So to get us started, how did you get into archaeology?
I've always had interest in history and archaeology. My father was a history student, and just kind of, I had that brought it when I was growing up. It was just constant influence there. But I came into the field very late. I joined the Navy in my early 20s, got out, kicked around jobs for a little bit, realized I had the GI Bill, and was like, I'm going back to college. And I drifted towards the topics that interested me, which were anthropology and history. And as I was going through, I decided I wanted to take a look at archaeology. I went on, my first field school was in Ecuador through Florida Atlantic University. While I was there, I was working on a dual major of history and archaeology and anthropology. And Valentina Martinez, who headed up the field school, took me aside and said, well, you seem to like this, you seem to be doing well. Do you want to keep going in archaeology? And I said, I don't know, because I'm trying to choose. I like history, I like archaeology, I don't know which one to do. And she pointed over to Dr. Tamara Walter, who helps run the field school, and said, well, Tammy's a historic archaeologist, maybe you should talk to her. And I'm like, there's a field for both, I'm sold. All right, there we go.
Perfect, that's awesome. So kind of keeping with the theme about historical archaeology, do you want to tell us a little bit about your current research?
My current research is on Egmont Key, which is an island off the coast of Tampa Bay. It's a barrier island, and it is a place important for the Seminole War during the last phase of it, because the U.S. Army built a prison camp on Egmont Key to hold Seminole prisoners who were taken before they would be forced to remove to Oklahoma. Being removed was a nice way of saying forced relocation. It's not even that nice. But they held a good amount of tribal members there, mostly women, children, and elders that were captured, and used as leverage to try to convince the remaining warriors to surrender. It was actually rather effective, and hundreds of people were held there before being taken to Oklahoma, including Billy Bowlegs, who was the head of the tribe at the time. We've been working with the park service at the island to try to locate where it was taken. We're also doing a full 3D scan now of the island so that people can do a full digital visit of the island. This is because we have elders who want to see it but haven't been able to, but we're going to be making this hopefully public access in terms of this whole big learning program.
That's amazing. I knew you guys were doing a little bit of 3D modeling, but I didn't realize it was going to be the whole island. Are you planning to do just like 3D modeling, or is it going to be like VR and more virtual reality aspects, or what's the?
We're working with Dr. Brooke Hansen over at USF, and she wants to do full VR. She wants to make this a full interactive thing that people can go. And I'll be happy if it's just like a website that people can visit and go around and learn in. Something we can, like an app that we can give people to see it on their phones. But yeah, we're talking full VR interface possibly.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's amazing. So I know that Egmont Key is, like you said, it's a barrier island, so it is very much threatened with every single storm or just changing tides.
Yeah, there's so many environmental issues hitting it right now. It doesn't have a strong foundation. It's basically a sandbar that's been up above the water long enough to get trees. And the Tampa Bay Channel, the dredging of Tampa Bay Channel cut off the replenishment that normally comes into the island. So every time there's erosion from waters, it loses more and more. And the last time when Hurricane Michael passed by, they said they lost 10 feet of coast just from that island, or just from that storm. Add to that global warming, and we don't know how much longer the island's even going to be there, which is another reason digital scanning is so important.
Yeah, it's very cool. So continuing on with some questions, what is your favorite tool in your toolkit? And bonus points if you have it, but I do understand home offices.
Yeah, no, it was a home office, and when I left the office, I took everything I need to work from home for 2 entire weeks. So I don't have any of the stuff there, which is kind of fair because my favorite tool, I've been thinking about this one, and my favorite tool is probably the Yamaha four-wheeler that we have, just because I love tearing around on that thing to get out the sites. Some of the places that we've been able to go to have been amazing on the reservation. The Big Cypress Reservation just has some beautiful areas to go back through, and I've gotten to have the Florida Panther run across the path as I was on that. My favorite tool that I was able to have with me is going to be very generic because it's basically this guy. Because it's generic, but that's why it's so great. I'm using it to take pictures all the time in the field. I'm using it when I have Wi-Fi signal, which is increasingly more and more places, to look up information on basic things in the field. The kind of stuff that 15 years ago you'd be going back to the office and pulling open giant books for. I can just find that with a quick search now. So recording anything happening, it's just the phone's becoming the multiversal tool.
So continuing kind of with your like field stories, do you have a best worst field story? Those great stories that you talk around about with another beverage.
I actually debated if I should tell this one. Because it was my first year working for the tribe as an archaeologist in the TAS, the Tribal Archaeology section. And we get to go out to some interesting areas in Big Cypress because it's right on Big Cypress Reserve. The Everglades are right there. There's a lot of wild natural area. And we had to get across a canal to some natural area for a site to make sure that a site that was found in the 90s but did not have very good information was not actually a site. And this is someone who basically found one solo bead on the surface and declared that this was obviously a site of great tribal importance and eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. So we had to go out there and do a full survey, but there was no bridge, there was nothing to get out there. So we got a Polaris and headed out, tried to get across the canal, got stuck badly, had to be pulled out, tried to find other ways to get in, tried to find four-wheelers, and finally came to the realization that we were going to have to just walk through a canal. And again, natural native area. So I've gotten used to working with alligators within 10 feet of me, but not like going into their homes. That's like the one thing you're never supposed to do. So we kind of just had to poke, prod, figure knowledgeably that all the noise we'd already made had to have scared everything off. But yeah, we had to wade across. The water came up to uncomfortable areas around the waist. And this is also the point where I proclaimed that I come up with my swamp water hypothesis for how deep is too deep. And I've also declared that phrase will be my blues rock band if I ever form one. We got the walk across there, dug our holes, did our work, came back. And this was on the day that the tribe was holding their Thanksgiving event for employees. It's one of the reasons that we're trying so hard to find an easy way through there because we didn't want to miss this event. We ended up going to this event soaked from the bottom down, our boots full of swamp water. And thankfully it was in the gym, and basically we had some trial members look at us going, well, you guys have been busy, all right.
That's amazing. I was expecting a story about leeches, I'm not going to lie. So continuing on, this is our next to last question. It's our last formal question. And it's How do you think that archaeology can help save the world?
The main way I think archaeology can help save the world is, in part, under a lot of damage that archaeology has done over the years. We were strongly tied to colonial movements across the planet, across America. And one of the great things I get to do working for the Seminole tribe of Florida is my job specifically is try to get their story out there, to tell their history the way they know it, and not the version that's been told throughout the years to academics, by people who weren't able to get the full information. One of the major parts of that is the idea that the Seminole tribe are new to Florida, which is something that's been repeated for a very long time. And the Seminole tribe will tell you they are not new to Florida. They are descendants of the first people 14,000 years ago who ever set foot in Florida. They have ties here. Coacuchi, known as Wildcat, one of the warriors who was removed during the Seminole War, one of the heroes of the tribe, said that he was told he was made of the sands of Florida. So there's a strong tie there. And when the Spanish came, there were diseases brought in, there was slavery, there were attacks. There were all these problems that decimated the populations of the people who lived in Florida, but they weren't completely wiped out. There were still people living in Florida. There were remnants of the Calusa. There were people referred to as the Spanish Indians who were descendants of both the Calusa and the Spanish who remained in the area. There were remnants of Appalachee, Timucua, other groups that all got pushed together with people from creek areas in the north, Muskogee areas in the north, that were coming down, had been coming down even back to the 1700s. And they all kind of got driven together when the American expansion into Florida happened. They all were forced together to become this one group that got referred to as the Seminoles. And that's something that's often lost. And that's part of what's lost when people don't talk about, when they talk about tribal history, but don't actually talk to the tribes about their own history. And that's the major event we've had. We have a campaign going on right now through the TIPO called #NoMoreStolen which there's a button that I have there from that. And this is in relation to collections that are in the the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History, where they have Seminole ancestors, but they refuse to acknowledge that these are Seminole ancestors and refuse to do repatriation on them. So we started an awareness campaign to try to let people know about this. And it's not just the Seminole tribe of Florida. It's not just the Kasuke tribe of Florida Indians, the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, who are all tied together through their history. But there are so many tribes that have ancestors they've not been able to repatriate because people refuse to acknowledge that these tribes, the people who make up these tribes, existed long before the names that were given to them by outsiders, such as Seminole, were ever created.
No, that's, I think, not transparency, I'm trying to think of the right word, but I think awareness is critical. I don't think people discuss Smithsonian's collection as much as they should, and trying to decolonialize history is critical. I can't tell you how many conversations that I've had with people over years and years, and it's all inadvertently laced with colonial language, especially when it comes to understanding Native American histories within the entire United States. So I think it's amazing what you guys have been doing to try to get that, and just getting the ancestors back is so important to get these remains returned. Yes.
It's hard to describe the impact and the importance it is to the people. I'd rather let them describe it, and you can find online. Pina Osceola has done some talks about this, and she's an incredible orator and someone everybody should hear talking about this. As research coordinator, one of the main jobs I have is anyone doing research with the tribe, they first have to put in a research permit request. I'm the one who gets to look at those and see what this research is, bring it before our committee, and basically say yay or nay, can they go through with this? And we talk to tribe members about the research, find out if something they want discussed or not. Because there's a lot of things that the tribe does not want talked about to the outside world. And The amount of papers I've gotten of people working to decolonize has been incredible. I see that, and the fact that people are doing this now, this has become an active effort to decolonize, is one of the greatest things. And it's really like the movement in archaeology of our time, and anything to support that, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that there's a lot more research coming out. I'm also just kind of excited to knowing what tribal archaeology is about and what you guys are working for is the fact that you are still working for descendant communities, which I think is something that a lot of archaeologists tend to forget about, is that there are still living communities that the archaeology impacts on a daily basis and that these histories impact on a daily basis. And so I just, think tribal archaeology is 100% a way that will save the world, or bring light to a new world, really.
That's a goal.
Yeah.
Along that line, also to mention, I like what I said about the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History is about the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. The Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian is amazing. Those guys are fantastic. There's lots of tribal members who are involved in that, who helped shape it, and their repatriation is spot on. They are the example of doing everything right. Not all Smithsonians are the same.
No, not at all. And I think that also comes with the age of the museums. And again, it's also, this is a whole tangent, but it's the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History, and it shouldn't have Native American remains to begin with.
We definitely agree on that.
Yeah, there's just something slightly wrong. So our last question, which can probably be along the same lines, but at the moment, what is keeping you sane during these times?
Well, first, thanks for assuming that I am. These are interesting times. That's the best way to put it. What I've actually been able to do, because of the amount of free time, is get back to some of my other hobbies that I've been neglecting for a long time. I used to draw a lot, and I'm trying to get back into that. Somebody mentioned to me that I should try to do a webcomic, because that's the way things are. Just, you can see, you look at any webcomic and you can see the artist progression. It helps so much doing it because of that diligence. I've been doing some online courses, trying to get my sketching back. When I was back in high school, my entire goal of my career I thought I was going to have was going to be a comic book artist. And it did not go that way.
So that was the last of our interview for Tea and Trowels. So I'd like to thank you for joining us, and cheers.